Welcome back to the Carolina Justice Report. This is Rainey Romero with the lovely law firm, chatting again with my favorite ladies, attorneys Sarah Austin and Amy Lawrence. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Good. How are you?
Stick with us. We're going to go into a deep dive with the Murdaugh mysteries about where is the money. So today we're kind of chatting all about where all of this money has gone with this whole mystery involving the Murdaugh murders. So we've had 2 episodes prior to this kind of chatting just about what has happened so far. But this one is all about all this money that seems to be mysteriously gone, right? So where are we at with this?
So what we know as of to date, and there are constantly more, this is just from the charges that are pending, but it's a rolling tally, but we're right at $9 million of missing money that Alec Murdaugh has taken, and Corey Fleming. And so, this opens up a whole question. So we know that this money was flowing through his law firm, right? Mm-hmm. And it goes through his trust account. And what people don't really understand is, so he was telling, from what I understand, he was telling his clients, oh, we're going to set up this, like, either he wasn't telling that that the cases were settled at all, or was saying that he was going to set up this essentially a structured settlement. Mm-hmm. And the company that a lot of attorneys use in the Southeast, and I feel really bad for him because their name has been brought into this whole situation, is a company called Forge Consulting. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they set up structured settlements, and we do it in children cases. We do it sometimes in Medicare cases to make sure they keep their Medicare, and we do it so they get a payment. So like with kid cases, it grows interest. They invest it, and they get this much money at 18, this much at 19, this much at 20, help pay for college. Mm-hmm. They get some at 25. You can structure it any way you want to do, because nobody wants to give $100,000 to a kid when they're 18. Mm-hmm. And so parents and we and financial planners all sit down and try to come up with the best result for the kids that we're dealing with, or whoever it may be. And one of the things about Forge is we never touch any of the money when it comes to Forge.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of it.
And I think it's just to even address the situation of like, where did the money go? Is
right.
Like, where did the money come from?
Right.
And the money came from the victims. So Alec Murdaugh's law firm, he represented the victims, I guess, that were stolen from, that we know of. But his law firm, when you sign the fee agreement, you sign a fee agreement. It's not Sarah Austin is my lawyer. You sign a fee agreement with the lovely law firm.
Right.
So they signed a fee agreement with PMPED.
Right.
And Alec Murdaugh represented them. And got them these settlements. And that's the one thing about this whole thing I can't say. These lawyers were doing a great job. Like, they got a lot of money in from
right.
insurance companies or whoever for their injured clients. And so you've got injured people hiring PMPED, Alec Murdaugh representing those people. He gets assigned those cases or however that
right.
works in their system. He gets these big settlements, and these checks come to the law firm. And they go into the law firm's trust account. And then, like Amy's saying, for any reason, sometimes, lawyers can just cut the check right to the injured victim. Mm-hmm. And you'll sit down and you'll go over the settlement, and this person was hurt in a car accident. You go over, this is attorney's fees, this was the costs of your case, these are the medical bills we're going to pay, and here's your check for $100,000 or whatever it is.
In our firm, and this is the way it's supposed to be done in every firm, you have an accounting for every penny that is received from an insurance company. Mm-hmm. So, and it's looked at by a paralegal and double checked. It's looked at by the associate attorney that handled the case, and then it's looked at by a partner. And then on top of that, we also have a CPA every month that reconciles to make sure every penny is accounted for every client.
Wow.
So if you get in $75,000 from an insurance company on a case, we know where every penny of that $75,000 went. Every penny.
So then
and
how
you
could
should
this
know
happen?
too, as a client. You're going to know too.
We give you.
So Justin Lovely
sheet.
if this happened at our law firm, there would be...
It would happen.
I would be fired at a minimum.
Choked, maybe.
But this would never happen, right? Because we have all these different checks. You've got paralegals, and then I go in and I talk to my paralegal, make sure all the money's right. Because if I give it to Justin and it's wrong, he's going to be asking me all these questions.
Yeah.
Holding it up. Justin looks at it, checks all the numbers, and then disperses the money, and then our CPA will look at it every month and just make sure that our trust account numbers are matching up, because we don't want to have to report to the bar that we don't know where this money went,
Right.
or we're holding this money for some reason we can't explain.
Right.
But we also don't want to have to explain that to the client because they've got a right to know.
Right.
It's
And
their
so,
money.
So then how could this happen? They're not doing the checks, or they
it
are,
couldn't
and it's
have
being
happened
overlooked.
without a lot of people knowing.
Knowing.
And that's what gets into Amy. So in those cases where we can just give the client the money, you would never hire a company like Forge Consulting. But there's a lot of reasons. There could be any number of reasons, like there are children, or the court can require it goes into a structured settlement or something like that. And you hire Forge to do the structured settlement. But the whole purpose of them is to keep the money tax-free. They consider
It's at an
tax
arm's length. We never
implications.
touch the money.
They consider Medicaid, they consider all that kind of stuff. And so in order to do that, the settlement money has to go directly from the insurance company to Forge. And it will never even pass through our trust account.
Right.
And that's the way that works up. So it really is inexplainable how this happened, and the partners didn't know if
Yeah.
they had the trust account
Right.
and there are checks being written from their trust account to Forge. Should have been a red flag, because
So
I
as
feel
I'm,
like maybe
I'm,
they just
that
weren't
doesn't happen.
looking.
I'm
you know?
listening to the Murdaugh Murder podcast, and I don't have headphones on, but it feels like I did. I was in the car.
Yeah.
I've got a court case in the upstate, and I've got to go do a deposition. So I've got this long drive. I'm listening to it, and I'm getting so mad. My neck is turning so red because I'm like so angry because and I called like two of my lawyer friends who do a lot of personal injury. I said, have you ever? And they've been practicing law about 15 years like I have. I'm at 14. I said, in all your years of practicing personal injury, have you ever written a check to Forge Consulting? And they said, no. Okay, I'm not
defeats the whole
losing my mind.
purpose.
That defeats the whole purpose. There should never be a check to Forge Consulting because the cost of their fees is borne on the client, and they're the ones who accept the money. It's all in their paperwork. They accept their fee out of it to manage it, to invest it and all that stuff. They handle all those things.
Right.
we've even had situations at our firm where we settle the case, and then thinking we can give the money to the client, something happens where we have to hire Forge. We've had to send the settlement check back to the insurance company.
Never putting it into our trust, send it back and say, no.
So that they could reissue the checks.
Void it, right,
to
and send them to Forge.
the right
Wow.
place.
Or
And so
whoever we use.
just if I ever presented a disbursement sheet to Justin, who cuts the checks at our firm, with Forge, $95,000, he would be like, whoa, what is this? And our accountant would be like, what the heck is this? And so that would be caught within
Seconds of looking at a
if
piece
it even,
of paper.
If it even made it out of the office, which it wouldn't, it would be caught that month at the accounting for the trust account.
And
Right.
I think this is the part that this is what that makes me stutter. I'm so upset. It makes me so angry because whoever is in charge, and it's all the partners are responsible for that trust account. Just like Justin and I are both partners, and we are both equally responsible for that trust account. Yeah, not it, right? Unfortunately, we're just as responsible. And so we take it so seriously because we're dealing with other people's money, and you can be reckless with your own, but you are not reckless with other people's money.
Especially injured people.
Yeah, these are people who need you need it the most. Matter of fact, it makes me so mad. And so if they know better, that is a very, very big, very old, very prestigious law firm. Their law firm is nicer than the courthouse that they practice in. And they know better. And when you see, as an attorney, any check written to Forge, that is the biggest red flag, and that went on for years.
And no one questioned it.
And
which
no
is
one
crazy.
questioned it.
Now, do we know when this started? Like when he first started stealing victims' money? Is it something that's been going on for years and years?
That was like 2016, I thought, but I think it might have been happening earlier. I'm not sure when he created that fake Forge account.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, I think this has been going on for over a decade.
Wow.
Yeah, and there could have been accounts similar to that account, but
And
named
really,
differently.
we never would have really known about it had the mysteriousness of all the murders happened, right? Or would we have known that he was stealing that money anyways?
I don't think, I think that's what kind of like was the catalyst. So, we had the Mallory Beach case. Really, it comes back to the Mallory Beach case.
And her attorneys are doing a lot of work, and I think that I know that we're waiting for SLED to investigate murders and things like that, but Mallory Beach's and the boat crash victims' attorneys are the ones that actually froze his account and got the receiver and are doing the accounting of where all this stuff is.
Yeah.
And by them doing that, it's really going to help explain to the other victims who are like, well, I've been,
I didn't even know I was a victim.
Yeah,
I didn't even know he took my money. I didn't
Right.
even know
I
my
knew
case
I
was
had a
settled.
settlement and I'm still waiting for it.
So
And
had
it's-
that boating accident not happened, this technically could still
would
be going
still be
on.
happening.
Perpetually, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's insane.
So when Mallory Beach, when all this happened, and then we have the murders, of Maggie and Paul, everything came into question after that. And we see, Hampton County is a very rural, very poor county. And I say that with the utmost love and respect. But, they're just working people.
Yeah.
They're people like my dad.
Yeah.
And they're people like my grandpa. And salt of the earth, good people, and they just don't know. And they all trusted him implicitly because, he's part of this family that's just known as lawyers, and they just think that he's going to do the
trusted to know
right
what you're
thing.
doing. Yes.
Yeah,
And they
just like
get
people
great
trust.
results.
Yeah.
Honestly, they do get great
big
results.
verdicts,
But it's
good
just
things.
the victims of these crashes or falls or the injured people are not seeing these great results actually come to them, which is the sad part.
Well, and to back up to Gloria Satterfield. So apparently, Alec paid a $500,000 settlement for that they don't know what happened with as well, right?
We include that number because I think there was multiple insurance policies.
Okay.
And it was initially we thought it was only 500,000, but then we learned that there was an extra 4 million.
Yeah.
Or
I think
little
the
under
total
3.8.
is like 4.3 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Including that.
That he paid to her?
He didn't pay anything.
Okay.
No, it would
He
be
took
a homeowner's insurance
a
policy
homeowner's
would
insurance
cover a
policy
fault
and
like
an
that.
umbrella
And
policy.
so when
Gotcha.
you talk about Moselle, if she fell at Moselle or their other property, these are $1 million homes with $1 million insurance policies.
I mean, we're talking about hundreds of acres of land that
Right.
back up to the water.
So
Well, and
that's where
speaking
that
of, his home is up for sale right now.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
Murdaugh home.
And that I also find it to be very odd that it was not put on like the MLS, like a normal home. Anytime I've ever seen a home that's represented by a realtor, you put it on the MLS. And there was no Zoom, right? There was no Zillow, that's the word.
Right.
There's no Zillow, there's no realtor.com
Right.
for this home. And
property.
instead, it's like a pocket listing and they're selling it. And the question is like, what are they why? Like,
Yeah.
why are we doing it that way? The more that people try to keep things in the dark, there's usually a reason. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm kind of like, my life's an open book. I overshare probably, and it's because I just don't have anything to hide. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It is what it is. What it is.
Right.
Good, bad, and indifferent. But when you see people trying to hide something, there's usually a reason. They're ashamed of what they're doing. They're doing the wrong thing. There's something that's tied to that. And when you see something that is with all eyes are on it, they're hiding how they're doing it, then there's probably something afoot that's not good.
Yep. Well, and I think, and again, I am not a lawyer, so I don't know how legit this is, but I think they are kind of trying to fight over this house to use that to pay victims back, to use.
Well, he tried to
what that's
disinherit
worth.
himself
Yeah.
to give so that they would never get it. And this, come on, it makes me so mad. His law firm files a lawsuit, right? So first in line, right? First to the courthouse steps is your line of how you're going to get paid.
Because there's a lot of
essentially.
victims.
There's a
Right,
lot of
right.
victims. So they sue, and this also is what really just burns my ass up, is we see his law firm sue him for this amount of money. And he goes and signs a confession of judgment. Guilty, I owe it. So that puts them first in line, which makes them feel like they're a part of the conspiracy. That was the worst thing that they could have ever done if they had nothing to do with any of this stuff.
Yeah,
Because it made them look guilty as hell.
Yes.
Whether they are or not, it makes them look that way.
Right.
I mean, not even guilty or not, just sort of when that happens, you want the injured people to be first. You want Mallory Beach's family
makes them look like
first
they're
in
a part of-
line,
right.
And so you just kind of take a step back and say, you were a successful law firm.
We've
We've got
all
enough
made
money.
millions and millions of dollars. Let's just let this play out and let
Yeah.
these people who are really hurt, people who've died, paraplegics,
Yeah.
people who've been terribly hurt, to let them
Claim whatever money is left because
Right.
we didn't even talk about the jail calls on the last podcast. I mean, the last report, but him and Buster are talking. He's talking to his brother. They're moving money around and they're doing it to try to save. I think he's doing it all. And like he tried to have himself killed.
Right.
This is all for Buster so that he doesn't have nothing when this is all over.
Right.
which is crazy. He is a healthy, like 30, how old is he? 30, 28? Like,
I don't know, but he
late-
was in law school.
Yeah.
So he surely can go back.
Yeah, I mean, he has a full-time job.
Right.
When we hear these these jail phone calls between them, he's constantly trying to make sure he has money, right? Mm-hmm. He has a full-time job. This is not someone who can't work a job. Like,
Right.
he has a full-time job. He lives with his girlfriend rent-free. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In her home.
Yeah.
This is not
He
somebody
wants him to
who's
have the
desperate.
high life,
This is
apparently.
not a 15-year-old kid.
Right.
Or 18-year-old kid who can't pay for this
I
is
just think-
a grown man.
Yeah, he's worried about saving his money for Buster. I think from when I listened to the jail calls, it sounds like Alec has kind of given up on himself getting out of this, and now he's
Right.
just like, preserve what you can preserve, and so moving stuff around and selling the house. But now there's the receiver, thanks to the boat victims' attorneys freezing all the assets,
Right.
and we're gonna figure it out. If anyone's gonna figure it out, it's gonna be them.
Oh,
They're,
right.
yeah,
They're on it.
They are a full throttle for justice right now. Not just
Yeah.
Mallory Beach. I feel like they're doing it for everybody at
Yeah.
this point.
Between
And so-
Eric Bland and the Beach family's attorneys, we're going to.
We'll find out. And I think we'll find out what happened, and we're definitely going to find out. Hopefully, the South Carolina Supreme Court and ODC really takes a harder look at those trust accounts. We're required to submit them, so they had to be submitted.
And what's going on with
figures out
Mallory?
what happened.
Mallory Beach getting her settlement. Are we waiting for all of this?
So, yeah. I mean,
To
it's just
unfold.
up in the air. And right now there's a dram shop, and we do dram shop cases all the time. And so we know that Parker's, which was a gas station, had sold Paul Murdaugh underage, right? Alcohol underage. And they're part of this dram shop issue, and they're fighting it tooth and nail. And they're doing some really shady things along the way.
Yeah.
So we talked about dram shops in the first one.
Right.
But you can sue a bar. They have $1 million liability insurance now. Bars and
Minimum.
any place that serves alcohol, so even gas stations that serve beer or wine, they'll have to have $1 million liquor liability insurance policy. And so I know that Mallory Beach's attorneys and the other boat crash victims too, because they were all hurt. She just passed away, unfortunately. They're suing the gas station, the bars that overserved these people, but then also they can sue Paul Murdaugh and Alec Murdaugh and Maggie because they owned the boat and Paul was driving. And so now I think there's just so many victims in this case, and there's just not enough money.
So they did own the boat. Why did I read somewhere that it was some sort of business?
So they own the
owned?
business. So from what I understand, there was an LLC, and this boat was used for like as a hunting and fishing guided boat. And so they're denying the insurance claim on the boat because there's a very large insurance policy,
Right.
just like they had on their home. That they're denying it because this boat was not used
For the business.
for the business purpose. It was used for a personal purpose.
Right.
So they shouldn't have to.
But it was like Alec Murdaugh's LLC.
Right.
So they owned the boat through a different
So
name.
it's still.
But it's all
yeah.
the same
A name
person, the
yeah.
same
Rose
liability.
by any other name, right?
It was the same person. So there's
all
just not
flows
enough
through.
money for all of the victims, I think, even with suing the bars. And that's why they're doing an accounting and trying to figure out where all this money went. And then when you find out he's moving money, it sounds like he's still moving money from jail on those calls, which is why they're trying to keep them all secret.
Well, and let's talk about what we know about why he stole from these victims. Was he having issues with money?
Well,
I
this
don't
is
think that's what we really still don't know.
that's the one thing we don't know. And Harpoolian and Jim Griffin would like us to believe that he spent it all on opioids.
That's
we
a
all-
lot.
that's
a lot of
to
money, yeah.
spend
That's
on
a-
opioids.
That's a lot of oxy. You know what I mean?
And that is a very competent man
Yeah.
to be, he's representing people in court and doing all these and running all these businesses and hunting every day, and someone who's spending $4.3 million on opioids
And
is
no
not
one's
functioning at that
questioning.
level.
Right. Unless he was some sort of drug dealer that might come out. I don't know.
Yeah, but unless he wasn't taking the opioids,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
yeah.
they said that he was.
I think we all know someone who's addicted to an opioid, right? That's an epidemic in this country, and when I've never met a functioning heroin addict. Have you?
Not a practicing attorney who's,
I've never met a functioning
handling
heroin addict. Period.
And his law firm's trusting him to handle all that kind of money.
Right. I don't know anybody who's doing millions of dollars worth of opioids, heroin, OxyContin. That is a functioning.
Right.
Yeah. If not, they're dead.
So that story doesn't make a lot of
Right.
sense. That's
And
the
physically,
big,
you
the big
can
question
tell
is like where
when that,
where the money came
He's still
from.
pink.
Yeah.
We know that it went to his Forge account, but then what happened to it after that, I think, is the bigger question that
Yeah.
we still don't have an answer to.
No, he's tied. He's tied in with known drug dealers. I mean, we know this because he owned a land with a joint tenancy in common, and was given land by this man who'd done prison time, right? Who'd been accused of this huge, I think it was like in the 80s, late 80s. And we just see all these ties, and it's like, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
And when somebody's, it's kind of like with the Stephen Smith case, where all these things, it's like we can't really prove it, but like, why is this one name that just keeps coming up every time in these situations? And
The good thing about bank accounts is you can see where stuff goes, and if it's a bunch of cash being withdrawn or all that money is going into a forged account, where's it going? I think that's what SLED and the FBI are honestly investigating now, and so I think we're going to get answers one day. But
I don't think it's coming soon.
Or I don't think it's coming from Alec Murdaugh himself.
No.
Or anyone else connected, because there's going to, or maybe, you know, there'll be more people arrested, and then those people will start talking.
Right.
Because
Or heaven forbid we find out more
House of
murders
Cards
are
eventually
associated.
Yeah.
Right?
crumbles.
Because, you know, an average person, you don't have any kind of murder associated with your name throughout your whole life, right?
Right.
Right.
And there are
Multiple at this
one,
point.
2, 3, at least 3, 4, 5. There's at least 5, right?
Centered around this one person.
Yeah. So it's
Mysterious
just
deaths.
way too fishy. So everybody nationwide, I mean, you know, we're in South Carolina, so we're extra into it, but nationwide, everybody is wondering what the heck is going on with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know, Sarah, you said on the first episode that if Netflix hasn't hopped on this yet, they really need to and make something out of this, because it is a real life movie happening.
Oh, it just keeps getting crazier.
I was in San Diego last week for work, and I was eating dinner, and there was an attorney, I think another attorney, one was from Kentucky and one was from Indiana, and they both said, what's going on with that Murdaugh murder stuff?
Yeah.
That is the craziest thing. We started talking about dinner, and they're like, their jaws just opened, like, you can't make this shit up.
Yep.
I go, no, you can't. You can't.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it's sad as a lawyer to have to, I've had this conversation so many times, even in mediation with a client, because they'll be like, well, what happened with, you know, everybody wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
I just am like, no, I promise, like, we're doing everything by the book, and this really is so crazy how this amount, $9 million, just vanishes from a law firm's trust account is like unheard of.
Yeah.
So what are we, you know, as we continue to update folks that are watching this, what are the things that we're looking at moving forward as far as the money goes? Are we just waiting to find out where it all went, the $9 million?
We're waiting for more grand jury indictments to come out, because that's slowly just piecing together and telling us the story of where the money went. We're looking at more charges of not just Alec, but just, you know, everybody involved. The FBI is coinciding with investigations with SLED, so we're waiting to hear what they come back with.
And do you think Mallory Beach's legal team is going to be the one that exposes most of this?
I'm not sure. I don't know how much access the court's going to give them to what the police are investigating, because it's kind of, again, that criminal and civil overlap is, you know, we'll run into cases sometimes when there's a pending investigation, which is why I'm really shocked
That these
those
FOIAs
jail calls were
Yeah.
released, because we'll send a FOIA request for stuff related to accidents, and they won't even.
our client is the victim.
Yeah, and they won't. The jail and the police department won't release any information until the investigation is over and the criminal case is closed. And so the criminal case against Alex is very much open. They're still investigating a bunch of stuff.
Right, so that is weird.
And the jail is giving all this information to the media, which is, I think it's legal, but it's definitely not common practice.
Yeah,
like somebody
right.
at the jail
Unusual.
Well,
went
I
against
think,
procedure, but
I think I think it's all open book, and I think that we see abuse of government agencies all the time in FOIA issues, 100%. But I think that they did that because I think that they know that Fitz News will sue them under the FOIA. I think that's part of the deal too, because they're so invested in this.
that Fitz News will put all the
That
power
Fitz
around
News,
it.
yeah.
That's possible. So I think the
could go
investigation
anywhere.
is twofold, right? You've got the victim's attorneys and the receiver freezing the accounts, asking all these questions, but they've got to go get court approval before they can get all these things, and they've got to request all this information. And then you've got the government, SLED, and the FBI, who can literally just get a warrant and take it all. And so it's going to be like, I think they're going to work hand in hand, and of course the government is going to help the victims get paid, and everybody wants to know the answer to the question, where did it go and how did this happen?
Right.
But it's going to, I don't know who will figure it out first.
I think we've been left with a lot more questions and answers the more this unfolds.
Yep.
which is
wait and see kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Well, thank you both for chatting about this.
Yeah.
We are going to keep you updated on the next Carolina Justice Report as all this unfolds. So stick with us and watch this. We are also on all social media channels. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on TikTok, on Facebook, Instagram. We are all over the place. And we will be dropping new Carolina Justice Reports every Tuesday at 2 p.m. So keep an eye out for those. Thanks for watching today. We'll see you next time.
When life gets ugly, justice is love.